Favourite players from the 20 Rugby World Cup teams. Rugby World Cup's well done and dusted now. I think my last video on Rugby World Cup, apart from the jerseys one, the fake jerseys, but that was just like my dream team from the Rugby World Cup. And it's an interesting one because that one, do a lot of research and try to remember the games and look at all the stats, analyse as best I can. And yeah, I have to kind of justify it, but I figured let's just do a quick one on the players that I like. Some of these guys maybe didn't have their best Rugby World Cup, but they're still players that I really like watching. Some of these guys I had honestly never heard of before the Rugby World Cup, and that's no disrespect to them. That's just me not watching enough of their games. And some of them are just genuine superstars that I think everybody likes. So, yeah, I'll go through some of the guys that I like. They're just my favourites for whatever reason. Some of them have kind of specific reasons. Others just a bit more generic. But I'll go through the teams. And as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts. I've been interested to see some of the comments on the Dream Team. So, yeah, we'll see how we go for this one. I've put most of the teams kind of a semi-order to this. At least the bottom teams are all the ones who made the knockout stages. The top ones are all kind of just as I put them on the board. So, the first one I've got there is Samoa. And for that one, my favourite guy from the Samoan Rugby World Cup team is TJ Ioane. I liked him before the Rugby World Cup. He used to play in Super Rugby. Always been a very dynamic ball carrier, hard tackler. I mean, he got 2 yellow cards in the Rugby World Cup. I think he only played 4 games. So if you're playing fantasy, that's getting you negative points for that kind of stuff. But from what I saw of him, he still hasn't changed. He's still that same guy because he's left Super Rugby quite a number of years ago. So he is still that hard work rate, hard tackling, very tough player. It just so happens that he got a couple of yellow cards at the Rugby World Cup. From the USA, I guess it's one that I've gone with a guy that I wouldn't normally. I didn't know him before the Rugby World Cup. Yeah, put it that way. There's several of the guys in that US squad that play in Europe that are bigger names for sure. But I've gone with Mike Teo. He's the fullback. Someone in the comments once mentioned when I talked about him, like, you mean that fat fullback? That's the kind of guy I mean. He's a pretty stocky looking bloke for a fullback. His defense is not the best in the world, but honestly, that guy added a spark to that American backline. He scored a couple of tries, and he was just genuinely fun to watch. Like I said, he's not a defending fullback. He's kind of the opposite of Rob Kearney. But, I mean, I just enjoyed watching him playing. There are certain guys that just don't look like they fit their position, and he is also one of those guys. But he seemed like, a pretty fair player. So, he's not world-class, but I like watching him, put it that way. Next, from Russia, I think most people would have taken a shot at this guy, and that's the captain, Vasily Atomy. He played or was educated in Ireland, so it's funny watching him in the interviews because he doesn't sound Russian at all. But yeah, that guy put in some proper shifts, and his interviews were honestly so magnanimous, and he's really well spoken. Just talked about wanting to kind of do the country proud and give the fans something to watch. And yeah, man, I mean, the guy took some bloody heavy hits, and he got up. So he's a hard as nails customer, and just a useful player as well. So yeah, I didn't know him before the World Cup either. It shows you how much Russian rugby I watch, but and the Mo. That'll be a theme throughout this video as well. So yeah, that's my guy from Russia. From Uruguay, speaking of the Mo, I've gone with German Kessler. He's the hooker from Uruguay squad. He's got quite the mustache and quite the hairdo as well. I didn't know him before the Rugby World Cup. He's just a busy player, man. I mean, there's something to be said for guys with a high work rate, and he's just that kind of guy who loves to get in and make tackles, and he gets involved in the play. So aside from just having a Mo, he played 4 games for Uruguay and was, stand out enough that I remember the guy's name and I remember his face, whereas now that we're a few weeks after the World Cup, a lot of these kind of names have subsided. That guy's name remains with me pretty fresh. For Georgia, I went with Beka Gorgadze, not the more well-known Gorgadze, but this is Beka Gorgadze. I think he's only like 23. Just again, work rate. There's definitely a theme to the kind of players I like, and guys who just make tons of tackles are guys that I appreciate watching, because that can't be all that fun, but some guys really just seem to get into it, and he did that, and he's pretty useful with the ball as well. So, yeah, very, very good loose forward, and yeah, at only 23, I guess that says something about where Georgian rugby is at, and that there's still young guys coming through the ranks, and it's not all kind of the old guys that are just hanging around. So, pretty encouraging for Georgia. For Tonga, it's hard to go past the big man, and when I say big, I mean big. Big Ben Tamiafuna. Looks like he's too heavy to play rugby. I think the Rugby World Cup website listed him at 151 kilos. That's a big man. He's not made for playing 80 minutes. You'd hate to see him come off the bench if his starting prop, went off after 2, kind of a la Kyle Sinclair in the Rugby World Cup final. He would struggle to go that many minutes, but he clearly loves his rugby, man. It's good for him. He probably does need to drop a few kegs for his health reasons and for just his play. But man, there's just something about watching that guy play. When you see him lining up somebody to tackle, that's just joyous, isn't it? And when he's got the ball in hand as well, seeing people try to bring him down. But yeah, he's a unit, and he is very fun to watch. From Canada, again, it's a guy that I had not heard of before the Rugby World Cup. Ben Tamiafuna, obviously I knew him from Super Rugby many years ago. I went with Lucas Rumble. Again, a tackling loose forward. It's kind of my thing. The guy's got a pretty cool name. It's Rumble. He likes to rumble. So, I mean, it's not spelt the same as Rumble. It's like Rumble. But yeah, either way, man. He played 3 games, the 3 games. He made tons of tackles. He was, I think, pretty decent with the ball in hand as well. I mean, it's easy to go with guys like Tyler Ardron, the guys that we see playing Super Rugby, but it was kind of refreshing to see somebody I didn't know who again kind of left an impression for more than just his name and his hairdo. He's got the kind of the wild man, the kind of Sebastian Chabal look going on. But anyway, yeah, Rumble from Canada. From Namibia, I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, Tijwe Uanavi. I think he was the only guy who played all 3 games for Namibia, but I could be mistaken. He's a bit of tall timber, he's a big lock. The Namibians had a fair few tackles busted, but he seemed like one of their better defenders. And yeah, again, he's just that guy. When I was looking through the list of players to make this video, his name just kind of stuck out, and I remember him with kind of fondness more than anything specifically. For some reason, the Namibia games, apart from kicking a few good penalties and putting in some good hits, yeah, have kind of started to vanish from my thoughts. But yeah, he seemed like a pretty solid player. From Italy, Jake Paleri. There's a fair few guys in Italy that are kind of classy players. I mean, the easy guy to pick would be old Parise, but I think Paleri, again, he's another young player, and he's dynamic. Apart from tackling loose forwards, it's also nice seeing tackling loose forwards, and I tried not to prepare any stats for this video, but I mean, the guy played 3 games and had 27 defenders beaten. That's pretty bloody good, isn't it? So, I mean, admittedly against Namibia and Canada, but still, the guy is dynamic, and definitely one for the future, or kind of present and ongoing future for Italian rugby. For Fiji, I think pretty much all of us will pick the same guy. I mean, they've got multiple talented guys as well, but Semi Radradra is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, that guy had try assists galore. He scored tries, he got run meters, he beat defenders. He's just involved in everything. That guy is just like the perfect human specimen for like one of the ultimate rugby players, man. Honestly, the guy is just so good. He's just so fun to watch. Anytime he gets the ball, you kind of shift towards the edge of your seat. So he is just an absolute excitement machine player in a team which is full of exciting players. So that kind of That kind of says something for him. For Scotland, it's Johnny Gray. Again, just tackling machine. I've seen videos, was it on Twitter? Not at the World Cup, but where he made like, I think 40 plus tackles in a game. The guy is, again, he's not like a Courtney Laws who's more of a dynamic lock. He is a brick wall, and I think his tackle percentages is like 98 or something. So I think he only played 3 games, but tackle after tackle after tackle after tackle, it's just what he does best. And yeah, I enjoy watching that. For Argentina, already done Uruguay. I just saw the U. That's what did it for me. Argentina, it wasn't their best World Cup, but Guido Petti, he just remains absolute class. He's the line-out king. He's one of the best line-out stealing guys in the game. I think he played all 4 games, and yeah, I think he had one clean break, which was just like him kind of galloping in the open, I think, from memory. But yeah, anytime that guy is at play as well, him and Lavanini as a combo, but particularly Petty. Someone once mentioned it in the comments that you kind of got like the thug, the tough guy, the enforcer, and then like the skills guy. So Petty is the skills guy. And yeah, just very fun to watch. Down to the knockout teams. Japan, I think also a very likable team, and there's multiple guys you could pick, but something about Kenki Fukuoka, the little winger, and it could be because he's quite small. Like, he doesn't seem to have the right build to be a professional rugby player, but he's got acceleration like you wouldn't believe. He beats tackles just through some really elusive running. He can make a half gap, a proper gap, scores tries. Yeah, man, he is just awesome. I think there's something appealing about the guys who are Japanese born as well. That maybe gives them a slight edge, I guess. I mean, that's not to say, it's not throwing any shade at the likes of like Michael Leach or Lapis Laviskakni or anything, but still, that guy doesn't look like he should be a rugby player, and he is phenomenal. And there's another small winger that I'll be getting to shortly, but yeah, Kenki Fukuoka, very fun guy to play. Familiar with him from watching the Sunwolves, so no surprises to see him tearing it up at the Rugby World Cup. My French pick is kind of a random one, and then I've picked Sofiane Guitoun. Again, he's another man who's just got gas. I think he only played 2 games at the World Cup. But yeah, again, it's just turning that half break into a full break. I think the guy is like, when I looked it up, he was 30. So I don't know how long he'll be able to keep those wheels, but while he's got them, he's a very fun guy to watch. For the Wallabies, it's probably a lot of people's pick as well, and then I've gone with David Pocock. He just seems like a really nice guy. I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff about him off the pitch, but like, he does a bunch of good work in Zimbabwe. He's always sticking up for people's rights and whatnot, so he seems like a pretty selfless, pretty intelligent guy. And yet he sticks his head into rucks and gets his neck like pounded upon when people try to clean him out when he's getting over that ball. So he is just world class and a top bloke and very smart. So he's just a top bloke, man. So what can you say about the guy? It's going to be disappointing not to see him playing in Super Rugby and for the Wallabies anymore after this. But yeah, that is what it is. For Ireland, it's Tadhg Furlong. Something about him and those potatoes, like how he just loves potatoes. Like, I love potatoes, so I've already got that kind of bond with him. And he's a dynamic prop. Like, again, a lot of props, they get the ball, they kind of fall over after about a metre if they're lucky. But this guy is a battering ram and wants to try and get over the line. And he was kind of back to that best at this World Cup as well, which is really pleasing to see. So, I mean, I feel like if there was a guy, because props never get World Player of the Year, if there was a guy who was going to get it, it could have been him like last year when Ireland were kind of top of the world. I don't even think he got nominated, so that's kind of a disgrace. But, yeah. Tadhg Furlong is a monster of a player, and the potato thing just tops it off. For Wales, again, it's probably going to be a lot of people's favourite. It's Alwyn Jones. Like, when you think leader, like, he's just a very good example of that, isn't he? He's another one who just seems to be able to talk to the refs really well. He leads by example, but he also seems pretty inspirational. His post-match interviews are usually pretty well done as well, which is not always easy when you've just played 80 minutes of rugby. So my daughter's crying. Maybe she's not happy with that. Maybe she would have preferred, I don't know, Jonathan Davis, who's also very class. But yeah, Alan Wynne-Jones, and he doesn't seem to age, man. Like he looks older, but he doesn't stop like getting up and tackling like crazy. So that's just him. For the All Blacks, I have gone with Addy Sevilla. Again, he's that kind of great combination of dynamic, like Paleri, but also tackling and turnover machine. Like he's getting better at that as well, like Pocock. So yeah, very versatile. I mean, I still remember him back when in Super Rugby when his brother Julian was like top of the world, and he was just kind of this guy that was coming through the ranks, and they would give him like a few minutes here, a few minutes there in Super Rugby because they didn't want to like overdo him because he was still young. They didn't want to burn him out, and now he's gone from kind of a perpetual bench warmer to a starting key man for the All Blacks. So it's been really enjoyable to kind of watch his journey from a New Zealand perspective. For England, and a lot of loose forwards on my list. Tom Curry, again, the guy is so young, but he seems really mature for a guy his age. 21, a tackle machine, very useful ball in hand. He got a lot of kudos for the win. The whole medals thing was annoying people. He was one of the guys that they said, oh, he kept his medal on, so that's awesome. And I mean, yeah, cool. That's a good news story for him as well. So he seems like a top bloke and another guy who should be kind of a key man going forward for England as well. And finally, I've kind of alluded to who this was, but it didn't make my dream team, disgracefully. But, I mean, Cheslin Colby. You can't not like that guy, because again, he's small and doesn't look like he should be a rugby player. And he's not quite like Fukuoka, where he is the acceleration king. Not that he's not quick, and he's got some serious wheels as well. But the guy can beat tackles. It's like watching two magnets kind of, with the opposite, push each other away. I don't know what it is about him. It's fantastic to watch. And he makes tackles on guys so much bigger than him. Like the final, he puts that big tackle in on Billy V. Get out of here, man. It's just crazy. So, yeah, man, that's 17 minutes of me talking about my favorite players. I guess that's less than a minute a player. But yeah, man, some top blokes, some good guys on the pitch, some good guys off the pitch, sometimes a bit of both. Some of them very likable, maybe some of them not so much, I don't know. Like, especially the guys whose English aren't their first language, it's kind of harder for me to kind of get a feeling for what kind of person they are. But, yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on which players kind of are your favorites, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.